The fans are in the glass for the new Lancool 4. This is supposed to be a $130 case. It's going to come with 6 fans.
Steve, you forgot this.
Oh, thanks. This is Jameson Chen, CEO of Lian Li. And this is his answer to those of you who emailed customer support and said technically his wireless fans were not wireless.
And now, you guys satisfied?
So, we're going to be talking about Lian Li's stuff today. He's going to join a little later in the video to talk about some of the manufacturing challenges for this specifically. And the Lancool 4 is the most interesting to me. They have a ton of other stuff. So as an example, I'm going to hand that to you before it becomes a hazard for me. And then as an example, this power supply has a rotating plug. So that's kind of interesting to create a shifting layout for the cable connections. And otherwise, they've got a bunch of cases. So there's the new Dan case B4. This is pretty interesting. This is the same case, just kind of rotated. And then there's a Lian Li 217 Infinity, which is the 217 with obviously an updated front that's leaning on some of the changes for the Lancool 4 to get the fans into the glass. So we talk about those. They have a new cooler. There's a whole bunch of stuff today. And we're going to start with this one. Before that, this video is brought to you by the Thermaltake TR100 Portable Mini ITX case. The TR100 case has a mesh ventilated front panel, heavily perforated side and top panels, and claims to support up to 280mm liquid coolers and large GPUs up to 360mm long and 70mm thick. It even has an optional suitcase with cutouts for the system, a mouse, keyboard, and monitor for transport. The Thermaltake TR100 Mini ITX case targets portable, smaller form factor PC building while maintaining compatibility for relatively large components. Learn more at the link in the description below. All right, so for the Lancool 4, this is the most interesting case, I think, that they have here today. The whole big thing with it is just embedding the fans into the glass. This kind of reminds me of about 20-something years ago, except back then it wasn't glass, it was acrylic. And what people do is take a hole saw, and then they would mount their own fan to it. So the challenges with this we're going to get into later, but as I understand it, mostly has to do with potentially reducing the yields and breaking the glass if there's not enough clearance around it. As far as the design itself for the case, so this has a lot of the similar panel design we're used to from the Lancool series, like with, for example, I think it was the 3 we covered last time. So it's got 4 doors. So these doors at the bottom on each side, they lever down, they're ventilated mesh, and then there's fan mount options on the side. One of the things that Jameson was just talking to me about is that they are considering shortening this case a little bit. So there's a couple things that would happen from that. This is not final yet. Shortening the case, first of all, would bring the fans in closer to the components. So if it's an air cooler, it'll benefit. If it's a GPU, it'll benefit it. We've seen with shorter cases, I mean, as you would expect, the performance in a like-for-like scenario is better. That's just because the fans are closer to the front of the parts. So that's one upside. He thinks maybe from a look standpoint, it might improve as well, just kind of tightening everything up. And then the only downside would be, and you can sound off in the comments how much you care about this, because he actually did read the comments last time, maybe to his own detriment, depending on what you all post. But this currently supports a 420, and shortening it would eliminate that. It would come down to a 360 for the max radiator support, and that's really the only major trade-off. So you can talk about that in the comments. All right, so otherwise, the big thing with this is since they're doing it's not like a 360 glass, they're getting kind of close, call it a 270. So this is all glass, obviously, which means that the cables are going to end up being potentially exposed, except they're basically just doing a standard cable cover, like a hiding cover, 2 screws to remove it, and then the cable management channels in here. So the biggest sort of downside with this design is you expose more of it as an upside. Downside is a lot less cable management space to work with, and then relying on that cable cover to hide everything will eat a little bit of that space too. Power supply mounts back here, and then there's this cutout up in the front as well, which just is to give some space for routing cables. And then for this new power supply, shifting topics, the whole point of this that I was showing in the intro is to be able to reorient the power supplies. But was it this case where you end up potentially against a wall?
Yeah. This is not the ones for it, because the ways that the frame was built, so this 24 pin will be blocked, but it's more designed for the top and bottom chamber case.
And you're shooting for if they use a different, like a back connect, the existing Shift series, I guess. Yeah. So this power supply in the RS series basically moves the 24 pin, as Jameson was just saying, off to one side, and then all the rest on the other side. This is an optional just hub. So this is a fan hub and USB too. But really all this is doing is just to allow you to reorient how it's positioned for BTF boards to give access to the bulk of the cables through the back side of the case without going to something like Corsair Shift, for example, or Lian Li's existing Shift series. But that wouldn't be ideal for this case. Jameson, why is this hard? Why haven't people done this before?
I think there's two things that's kind of like not easy to do this kind of design. So first, I think the glass manufacturing process has gone so much better lately. For example, when you're trying to like make special shape like this, the URA was so much worse, whereas now like it's like 5%, so it's tolerable.
5% failure.
5% failure.
Right, 95% yield.
Yeah. 5% failure.
And you're talking about just for the curve.
Just for a curve. And then if you're talking about drilling a holes,
yeah,
and then make a curve, then we're talking about at least 5% more, but failure. Yeah, but we will test to see how that goes. But the manufacturer is confident if we follow the rules, where you have to leave the gap between the cutting holes and the edges at least 3 centimeters. So 3 centimeters here, 3 centimeters here. Right. Yeah. And that kind of like hinders the design, because I think this kind of design, not only does it has the airflow capacity, but also the look of it is the most important part, right? But having it, 3 centimeter each angle.
Yeah, it uses a lot of space.
Exactly,
yeah.
Yes.
So what does the failure look like when there's a failed part? Is it cracking? Does it shatter?
Cracking.
Okay.
Cracking. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
And the glass. So the glass is 4 millimeters thick. Is the glass thickness part of improving the manufacturability, or is it just for quality and looks?
I think just for quality.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about construction? How does this actually assemble? Like if we kind of put it on the table here, you can maybe show.
So we have two kind of design. So one is like we use the special fan frame. So this fan is built differently.
Right.
So we actually think about this kind of design in different ways. So this one or the 217 Infinity use a different mechanic. This one we built the fan frame, the mechanic of the filter on the fan frame. So the fan frame has this very special holes. So you can use the hook to kind of sandwich the glass in between.
Right.
Whereas the other one is that the fan is using the standard holes, the fan mounted to the case frame, and then we use a separate plastic. Yeah.
All right. So I mean, mechanically, let me take a look at this. So internally, there's these two plastic pieces, which I guess are intended to hide
the cables.
Hide the cable. Okay. Yeah. And then this piece here, what is this? A paint or what is that?
It's a paint.
Okay.
It's because to cover the things behind. Yes.
Yeah.
So it hooks all the way, and we have a poker pin on the bottom. So
pogo pins. So
you can, because everything now is hidden. So
right.
On the finished product
so
itself.
So pogo pins are connecting down here.
Yeah.
So that's for power.
Yeah. It's also Peter bin.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you do if one of these dies? What happens if a customer has a case
so
with a fan dies?
Initially we're thinking that just do service for like at least 5 years.
Okay.
And
5-year warranty.
But maybe if this gets people's upfold, and then we might just come out with bunch of different design of the look of it, but follow the same pattern so that people.
You mean
can
like
basically
sell LED ones or something?
Exactly.
Like that?
Yeah.
Sell LCD. Fans.
Yeah. Sort of.
Okay.
So
are you thinking a 5-year? I mean, are you committed to that? Do you know what you can do yet for the warranty?
Oh, 5 years, no worry.
5 years, okay. What about the fan spec? I mean, is this an existing fan just that's been changed the shape, or is it a new fan?
It's a new fan. It has to be new because.
So, do you happen to know off the top of your head any details about the fan, like the
CFM and the airflow?
Or is it PPT? Is it fiberglass?
PPT.
Is it fiberglass reinforced?
Yeah, a little bit. Like 10% fiberglass.
10% fiberglass, PPT.
Yeah.
Do you, I don't expect you to know this top of your head, do you happen to know the distance from the blade tip to the inner of the frame?
This should be like 0.8, 0.9 something.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty standard.
Yeah, that's not bad. What about the bearing?
Bearing, FDB.
FDB.
Yeah.
TPI?
Probably not.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Anything else we should know about the fans themselves?
Not much. Not much. Maybe like we're still debating whether or not we wanted to, because it's our very first prototype.
Yeah.
So thinking, should we put the RGB on the blades? Which we'll try that to see how that looks, or like doing RGB on the frame here, just to see how it turns out. Because it's our first prototype, and then our idea is that to give people the transparency that they want, but at the same time to make it flow through, so kind of differentiate to the market.
Do you have anything you need audience feedback on?
Well, just the overall, do they like the look? Do they like, I guess people would appreciate the idea.
Yeah.
I think the final product comes down to how refined this is going to be. Do people think that this is sleek, or they think just too bold of idea?
Okay, sure. All right. So you leave your comments below for that. Let's walk through the rest of this case. So internally, so aluminum top, I guess, and then the rest is all steel?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know the thickness of the steel for the...
1 millimeter.
1 millimeter?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. How about cable management depth? Do you happen to know that top of your head? Like in here, the clearance?
Like 3.5 centimeter or something.
Okay, that's very specific, so that's what you do know. All right, and then this releases with a button. So if you bring it around here, so this mechanism moves to release the glass panel. What was the decision for that?
Just because like we don't want people to always have to open up the bottom parts of the panel.
Right.
If they wanted to open the glass panels, that was the kind of the drawback of the Lancool 3. Being the 4, then we do want some mechanism.
All right, let's move to some other cases. So we do this one. This was one of the cases where there's some other funky stuff going on. So on this panel, this is the O11D Mini V2. Is that right?
Why you show the ugliest part?
Well, why is it ugly? The ugliest part is the magic trick, right?
Yeah.
So this is popped out, and obviously, yes, the immediate reaction is, why is that not flat? The answer is Lian Li is trying to figure out how to shove an ATX power supply into this box. And this actually, we'll probably have to use B-roll, but this is protruding past the frame of the case. So the frame is sunken in over here. So the way they get the clearance, Jameson, do you want to walk through it? I mean, or maybe we use this one. But what's the actual offset for the depth here?
You mean
4 millimeters or?
I think this is like the 3 millimeters.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we were like, I think the decision point was we kind of like, we have a very specific width like we wanted to tackle.
Why?
Because like for a small footprint case like this, it's already very short, right? If you make it wide, it looks like very chunky, right?
Okay.
So we wanted to keep within 275, and then final result is 273 actually the width. The original Mini was 269.
Okay.
And then we already kind of like sacrificed a lot of space inside. So this power supply.
What's the volume of this in liters?
45.
45. So is the reason you were trying to get 45 and under, basically?
Yeah. Okay. So the original Mini was 43.
Does the 45 include the feet? Like the distance all the way down to the bottom? Yes. Does it include the...
No.
God damn it. Okay. All right. I see. So that was the reason, is to get into 45 liters.
Yeah.
The layout here is bottom intake, or well, bottom whatever, but bottom intake's interesting, or bottom fans in general, because they've got it slanted at, what was it, 25-degree angle or something like that? So 25-degree angle slant here. The only place for air access is on this side. So the case side panels extend all the way to the bottom, with the exception of this side here. There's a punch out in here. Can they breathe through this hole?
Yes.
Okay, and then through the back, there's a little bit of a punch out. Really tiny dust filter here too. That's interesting. That's for those fans at the bottom. And so that slides out of the back. And then for other fan mounts, they've got 2 on the side, 1 in the back, and then 3 fans can fit in the top. This is supposed to be 100, or what was the price on these cases?
89.
89. And then fans included, yes or no?
99, yeah.
99.
Well, you have
fans.
2 SKUs.
You're including 99 fans. Got it. Okay, so 2 SKUs. So what's the $100 one? How many fans?
5 fans.
5 fans.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 on the side, 3 on the bottom.
All 120?
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Going over to these cases. So the Dan case before is interesting. We've reviewed the Dan cases before. This is not done yet. This, I'm told, is about 60% there. So this rotates where basically there's these feet that are included here. So we get a shot on the side, but those come with the case. They extend it, and then the interesting sort of gimmick, but it's functional, is that this piece here is an extension, and that gets bolted on if you rotate the case and attach the feet. So it makes it much larger. The volume's bigger because you're attaching all the stuff to it. But what that does is, over on this side, allows the support of a 360 mil radiator. The only downside with this, and this is where the case not being complete comes into play, is that part of, so you see this, the whole space in here. So are we missing screws? Yeah, there's not all the screws are in. Anyway, the spacing for the fans is about here. And this one has probably about 30% of that fan falling behind just a wall. So there may be a possibility that they puncture this in some way or perforate it a little bit to reduce how much loss there is on the cooling for the fan. You still get the radiator surface area, so that still extends and is usable, but then the bolted on extension at the bottom is what accommodates it to make it actually fit. Lian Li's planning to probably put some kind of mesh or cover here. Currently it is fully exposed and open, but what's interesting about this layout is that the GPU fans are right here. I mean, they are like maybe half an inch or an inch away from the intake fans on the front here. So this is going to be about as cool as you can get for a GPU, where they're blasting the air straight into it. Most GPUs these days have vertically oriented fins. The air is going to come out the sides. So that'll come out through the punctured panel, perforated panel. And then there's a chance of recirculation. It's very likely if this is intake. So we might look at this in testing, but as exhaust with the back as intake might actually work better on this particular configuration, just to get the GPU heat away from the rest of the cooler. They're planning to include 2 fans with it, I think, right?
2 fans, yeah.
And they were 120 by 15s,
15,
yeah, slim fans. And so with the standard orientation, those end up here, and with the rotated orientation, they end up in the back of the case. So
which direction will you go if it's you?
For flow? For cooling?
Yeah.
Or you mean for layout?
I don't know. Up to you.
You're letting me choose the question now. I think I would go vertical. It's a lot bigger, but also the GPU cooling should be pretty good. I think so. It should be about as good as it can get.
Yeah.
So you're blasting the air straight into it. You just need to figure out your liability cover for the front, where it's currently a finger chopper. So this is the Lancool 217. We're working on a review of the 217. We saw this at Lian Li last year at Computex. Review's coming. This is the Infinity version, where the tooling is mostly the same. So the things in sort of the back of the case are all basically identical. The kill management area basically identical. The changes are going to be anything to do with the front panel and mounting it to the rest of the chassis. And they're doing the same thing with chopping some giant holes. So these are 170 mil fans that are 30 deep.
Yeah.
And these are mounted in the front center of a glass panel, but then it's the infinity mirror styling for it. The only other major change, I think, is the I/O. So apparently some of the feedback Lian Li got about the 217 was that people didn't like the I/O was on the bottom side, and now they have an option with the cover plate to go here or to go over here. And as far as the fans, it includes the 2170s, and then that's going to be the rear fan, not that one. So that would be included in the rear of the case. But otherwise, the features are the same as the 217, and this is supposed to be $120 or $125 for white. All right, so this one's pretty interesting too. This also has some sort of like functional gimmicks, I'll call it. So on the back here, this is not a handle. To be incredibly clear, there is a very fine mesh filter in here. If it's used as a handle, you're gonna shove it in. So they might need to put some kind of guard in there. But this is interesting though as a solution to cooling, where basically by chopping that in at this angle, they're able to get a little bit more exposure and surface area past the bottom of the radiator to help with intake, which actually should help the most with GPU intake, because you're basically cutting in a slot for it to pull more air in around the rest of the components on the side of the case. So otherwise, this is supposed to be targeted at sort of like the SI market, system integrator market. It'll still be sold retail though. Lian Li's targeting $110 for it, 0 fans on this one. And I guess for all these prices too, I should say.
With the screen included, yeah.
Yeah, screen included. For all the prices too, there's a potential plus 10% for the US market, depending on what the tariffs are at any given time. So screens included. Jameson, I need your help remembering this. What was the resolution on the screen? 1720 by 480, 8.8 inch, right?
Yeah,
IPS?
Yeah, IPS. Yeah.
Okay. So, and then this is currently playing back a GIF, I think.
Yeah.
And it uses software.
Yeah.
So that's included. But otherwise, I mean, it's a display case. So we won't spend a ton of time on that. These are also in the Vector series. The only reason I want to mention these is price, because we'll probably review them. So the Vector 100 and what is this, Vector 100 Mini?
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are $60 without fans.
Without fan, yeah.
Yeah. Is that for both of them? 60 without fans?
60 without fan
and then 45,
yeah,
right? Yeah. So 45. So we're probably going to test this, but only challenge for us is it's micro ATX, correct?
Yeah. Steve, you forgot this.
How much is this? How much is this toy?
Not sure yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did you want to say about the battery pack?
The battery pack is for free.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What is special about this? Like what is, because we saw the wireless thing before with the dongle. I don't think you have it in here, but the USB stick.
Yeah.
Is that it? Is this
that's it.
This is the original, right?
Yeah.
So
how do you make it wireless? So
yes.
There's actually a receiver in here. That's a transmitter, right?
Yeah.
So once you plug into the laptop or notebook, then you can use that notebook to control the lighting here. So, because the fans are running at a very high voltage.
Yeah.
So, because everything here we use 12 volt, because even the RGB we use 12 volt to 5 volt. So most battery doesn't provide that much voltage.
Right.
So it has to kind of ramp up that voltage, and then so sometimes if you ramp it the fan too fast, it will certainly short.
What's if we were to take this apart, what's actually in here? I mean, is it like, it's a PCB obviously?
The PCB, and then there's a CD display, and then there's a huge, I think the spec is 18650.
Any special controllers or anything like that?
Well, there's a built-in receiver, right? So same goes with all the fans. Goes with all the fan and AIO and others, our stuff. Yeah.
What is the use case?
Well, the use case obviously is flexing, right?
Okay, fair enough.
Well, that's why people are asking me to do it, right?
All right, I got to ask this too. Battery life?
Yeah.
What's the battery life? I mean,
so I think if you...
This is a lot of LEDs too.
Yeah. So let's say if it's like 3 of them and you keep it like this, it's going to last for like 20 minutes or something.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. It's good for like if you wanted to go for a little jogging or something.
It's just like I feel like just running around like this. It's something.
It's a reverse plate. Yeah.
Thank you. We're mostly focused on the case that we talked about today. There's a liquid cooler, so that is the Hydroshift 2.
Yeah.
Right. And we'll drop in some footage of it, but basically there's a click actuation ring around the cooler, which can be used as a softwareless switch for the display, and then all of that is pre-written to the device. So like through the firmware, so toggling it doesn't require software active. You could use software, which is actually interesting because we were talking about this and my desire for no software for that. They're doing that on the liquid cooler. So performance-wise for that cooler, we didn't get into this earlier, but is there anything special about it? I mean, like, is the fin density standard on the radiator?
So interestingly, like the radiator compared to the last gen, which is the Hydroshift 1, the radiator size is reduced because the way that we wanted to route the tube requires a lot of rooms on top of your cage, right? So having a bigger radiators does hinder some of the compatibility. That's why on this iteration, we kind of like shrinking down the radiator. So we had to put more emphasis on how to make the flow a little bit better.
The cold plate was interesting.
Yeah, the cold plate.
So the cold plate, the thinnest height for the cold plate you said was 0.3 millimeters.
Yes.
And what's interesting, so looking at it in a profile from the side, it is more than 0.3 millimeters when you look at the bottom, like the cold plate externally. So what you guys are doing, I guess, is channeling in. You're milling into it. You're leaving it taller on the outside for strength, I guess. And pushing the micro fins closer to the heat source is always an improvement. The downsides, I would think, would be probably the reliability.
Reliability, yes.
Yeah, and so like install remove cycles. And
so you cannot go.
Do you have to worry about like warping or flexing under heat if you thin it too much?
Oh no, don't worry.
Okay.
No, yeah, but I think also the manufacturing process. So obviously thinner is harder to make.
Yeah.
Also, like you cannot just go like make it like a paper thin.
Right.
Yeah. Otherwise, like you said, the reliability is gonna be an issue.
Is it skiving? Do you know, to make the fins?
Yeah, skiving. Yeah,
Okay.
that too. Yeah.
And then that is not a known, like an existing supplier. It's not Apple Tech, right?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so that's gonna be it for the walkthrough of all of Lian Li's new stuff. There's a ton here. There's some we didn't talk about, but we got most of it. Jameson, thank you for joining me.
Steve, we forgot this.
God. Okay. And you can go to store.gamersnexus. Where did this come from? You can go to store.gamersnexus.net to support us directly.
It's wireless.
Or you go to patreon.com/gamersnexus, and that'll help us out with this trip. Otherwise, check back. There's a ton of coverage going up. We're doing multiple videos a day, so make sure you check back manually. YouTube might not send them to you all. And that is it for this one. Jameson, you forgot this. We'll see you all next time.